The stars looked cold through the observation window. Captain Han Day stood with his hands behind his back, watching the distant lights. His ship, the Frontier Dawn, moved quietly through empty space. They had been out here for 3 months, searching for something that might not exist. "Captain, we're picking up a signal," Commander Yuri said from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. "It's weak. Very weak. But it's definitely a distress call." Day turned away from the window. "Can you identify it?" Yuri frowned at her screens. "It's not human. The pattern matches coalition frequencies. But sir, there shouldn't be any coalition ships in this sector. They abandoned this entire region 2 years ago. The Galactic Coalition was the government that ruled most of the known galaxy. Hundreds of alien species worked together under their banner. They had technology that seemed like magic. They had weapons that could destroy planets. And 2 years ago, they had abandoned the outer territories without explanation. Earth sat in those outer territories. The Coalition had left humanity behind like forgotten trash. "How far?" Day asked. 6 hours at current speed," Yuri replied. "Captain, our orders were to map this region and return home. If we investigate this, we'll be off course." "If there are survivors, they need help," Day said. He looked at the young pilot sitting at the helm. Jin Woo set a course for that signal. The pilot's face lit up with excitement. Jin Woo was only 23, the youngest officer on the ship. "Yes, sir. Finally some action." Yuri gave Day a worried look but said nothing. She knew better than to argue when the captain had made up his mind. 6 hours later, they found the source of the signal. It was a Coalition science station, or what was left of it. Large pieces of metal floated in space, still burning from whatever had destroyed it. Bodies drifted among the wreckage, frozen and still. "Mother of Earth?" Jin Woo whispered. "Life signs?" Day asked, though he already knew the answer. Yuri checked her instruments. 1, very faint, in the main laboratory section. "Jin Woo, take us in. Carefully. Yuri, get a medical team ready." The Frontier Dawn moved through the debris field like a careful dancer. Jin Woo's hands were steady on the controls, guiding the ship between chunks of destroyed metal. They docked with what remained of the laboratory, and Day led the rescue team inside. The station was a nightmare. Walls had been torn apart by weapons fire. The air was frozen and frost covered everything. Emergency lights flickered, casting red shadows. Dai and his team moved through the corridors, following Yuri's directions to the life sign. They found the survivor in a sealed medical room. It was a Coalition officer, one of the tall, gray-skinned species called the Veloth. The alien was badly wounded, lying in an emergency stasis pod that had kept him alive. Day's medical team carefully moved the pod back to their ship. In the Frontier Dawn's medical bay, they woke the alien. His large black eyes opened slowly, filled with pain and fear. When he saw the humans surrounding him, those eyes went wide with shock. "You're human?" The alien whispered in the Coalition's common language. The ship's computer translated his words into Earth Standard language. "Yes," Day said gently. "We received your distress signal. What happened here?" The alien tried to sit up but couldn't. His breathing was difficult. The Kryn horde. They came without warning. So many ships. We tried to fight, we tried." He coughed and blue blood appeared on his lips. "Don't talk," the human doctor said. "Save your strength." But the alien grabbed Day's arm with surprising force. "You must run. Leave this sector. The Kryn show no mercy. They destroy everything. Every world. Every station. Everyone." His grip tightened. "Wait. Human. You said you're human?" "That's right." The alien's eyes seemed to focus on something far away. "The legends. They said your kind was. But that was so long ago. 10,000 years. We thought you were gone. Dead. Or just a myth." "What legends?" Day asked, leaning closer. "The old records, the warnings. They said humans were." The alien coughed again, harder this time. "Deathworlders, apex killers. The species that scared even the Coalition, but you vanished. We forgot. We all forgot." "I don't understand," Day said. The alien's hand fell away. His breathing slowed. The archives. Check the old archives. Remember what you were. You'll need it. The Kryn are coming. They're coming for everyone. His voice became a whisper. Even for you. Then he died. The medical team tried to save him, but it was too late. Day stood looking at the dead alien for a long moment. Death Worlders. Apex killers. What did that mean? Captain, Yuri said from the doorway. We found the station's data core. It's damaged, but I think we can recover some files. Day nodded slowly. Do it. Find everything you can about this Kryn horde. And Yuri, search for any old records about Earth, about humans. I want to know what that alien meant. For the next 2 days, the Frontier Dawn's crew worked to recover data from the destroyed station. What they found was terrifying. The Kryn horde was a massive force of warships, millions of soldiers, and terrible weapons. They had appeared in the outer territories 6 months ago. Since then, they had conquered 47 star systems. They didn't negotiate. They didn't take prisoners. They simply destroyed everything in their path. The Coalition had tried to stop them. They had failed. So the Coalition had done what they always did when faced with a problem they couldn't solve. They had abandoned the outer territories and retreated to their core worlds. They had left billions of beings to die, including humanity. We need to warn Earth, Jinwoo said during a meeting in the ship's briefing room. Agreed, Day said. But there's something else. Yuri, tell them what you found. Yuri brought up images on the main screen. They were old, very old, from the Coalition's historical archives. These records are over 10,000 years old. They mention Earth, they mention humans, and the words they use. She paused. They call us the species that must be contained. They call Earth the death world. They say humans are too dangerous to be allowed into the wider galaxy. Dangerous? Jinwoo laughed. We barely have faster-than-light travel. Our weapons are primitive compared to the Coalition's. How could we be dangerous? I don't know, Yuri admitted. The records are incomplete, but they clearly feared us. Then about 10,000 years ago, all mentions of humans just stop. It's like we've vanished from their history. Day stared at the ancient records. Something the dying alien had said echoed in his mind. Remember what you were. Set course for Earth, Day ordered. Best possible speed. Command needs to see this. All of it. The Frontier Dawn turned toward home, carrying news of an approaching enemy and hints of a forgotten past. Behind them, in the darkness of space, the Kryn horde continued its advance. And somewhere in the old records of 1,000 forgotten species, the truth about humanity waited to be remembered. The myth was about to become real again. Earth looked beautiful from orbit. Blue oceans, white clouds, and green continents spread across the planet's surface. Captain Han Day had seen this view hundreds of times, but it never got old. This was home. This was worth fighting for. The Frontier Dawn docked at the orbital command station, the massive military facility that protected Earth. Within an hour, Day found himself in a secure briefing room with the most powerful people in the United Earth government. Admiral Sung Kyo sat at the head of the table. He was 60 years old with gray hair and hard eyes that had seen too many wars. Around him sat generals, intelligence officers, and scientists. They all listened in silence as Day presented his report. So let me understand this correctly, Admiral Sung said when Day finished. There's a hostile force called the Kryn Horde. They've conquered 47 systems in 6 months. The Coalition has abandoned us to face them alone. And according to ancient records, humanity used to be feared across the galaxy. He leaned back in his chair. That's quite a story, Captain. It's all in the data we recovered, sir, Day said. I believe you. Admiral Sung looked at the woman sitting to his right. Dr. Narration, you've been studying the records Captain Day brought back. What's your analysis? Dr. Nari was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick movements. She was Earth's leading expert on alien cultures and history. She stood and activated a holographic display above the table. The truth is remarkable, she began. I've spent the last week going through every piece of data we recovered. I also accessed the Coalition's public archives using back channels. What I found changes everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. Images appeared in the hologram, ancient alien text, translated by Earth's computers. These records are between 8,000 and 12,000 years old, Dr. Nari continued. They come from multiple species, all saying the same things about humans. Let me read some direct quotes. The humans cannot be reasoned with in combat. They fight past the point of death. Another one. Human soldiers pursued our forces for 37 days without rest. This should be biologically impossible. And my favorite, recommend immediate quarantine of the Sol system. Species is too unstable for galactic integration. They were afraid of us, Jinwoo said from where he stood by the wall. He had been invited to the briefing as part of Day's crew. Terrified, Dr. Nari corrected. But why? That's what I needed to understand. So I compared human biology and evolution with other species in the Coalition. The differences are shocking. She changed the holographic display. Now it showed images of different planets. Every major species in the Coalition evolved on what we call garden worlds, stable climates. Mild weather, few natural predators. Their evolution was relatively peaceful. But Earth? She smiled. Earth is what the galaxy calls a death world. What does that mean? Admiral Sung asked. It means everything on Earth evolved to survive impossible odds. Think about it. Ice ages that killed 90% of all species. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years. Asteroids that created mass extinctions. Predators that could kill prey 10 times their size. Diseases that spread across continents. And humans survived all of it. Dr. Nari pulled up an image of a human running. Humans are persistence hunters. We can run for days without stopping. No other species in the galaxy can match our endurance. Our bodies can heal from terrible wounds. We can survive in environments that would kill most aliens. We can eat things that are poisonous to other species. We adapted to live on every continent in every climate, from frozen tundras to burning deserts. She changed the image again. Now it showed human soldiers in combat. But it's not just physical, it's psychological. Humans evolved fighting for survival every single day. We learned to work in groups. We learned to plan and strategize. Most importantly, we learned something other species never needed. We learned to fight when all hope was gone. We learned to never surrender. The room was silent. Everyone stared at the holographic displays. There's more, Dr. Nari said quietly. I found references to a war. About 11,000 years ago, humans had just discovered faster-than-light travel. We met the Coalition. Things went badly. There was a conflict. The records are vague, but it seems humanity fought the entire Coalition to a standstill. Then suddenly the war ended. Humanity withdrew to Earth and cut off all contact with the galaxy. Why would we do that? Day asked. I don't know. The records don't say. But afterward, the Coalition declared the Sol system off limits. Over time, people forgot about us. We became a legend, a myth, a scary story aliens told to their children. Admiral Sung stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. So the galaxy forgot what we were, and now there's an enemy coming that the Coalition couldn't stop. Yes, sir, Dr. Nari said. How long until the Kryn reach Earth? A new voice spoke up. It was Hana Ren, the head of Earth intelligence. She was thin and pale from spending too much time in underground computer labs. Based on their current rate of advance, 6 months. Maybe 8 if they encounter resistance. They won't encounter resistance, Admiral Sung said. The Coalition is running. That means every species between the Kryn and us will either be conquered or will flee. He turned to face the table, which means we have a choice. We can run, like the Coalition, pack up our civilization and try to hide somewhere in the galaxy. Or we can fight, Dave finished. Against an enemy that defeated the Coalition, General Park Tae said. He was the head of Earth's ground forces. Sir, our technology is generations behind the Coalition's. Our weapons are primitive by their standards. Our fleet is tiny. How can we possibly win? Admiral Sung smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Because we're human. Because we evolved on a death world. Because we're the species that scared the entire galaxy into quarantining us. He looked at each person in the room. The Coalition forgot what we are. The Kryn don't know what we are, but we're about to remind them both. He turned to his staff. I want a full military mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon, and I want volunteers for a special mission. He looked at Captain Day. Captain, how would you like to bloody the Kryn's nose before they get here? Day felt his heart beat faster. I'm listening, sir. The Kryn are advancing on a broad front, but their supply lines are stretched thin. If someone were to hit those supply lines hard enough, it would slow their advance. Buy us time to prepare. Admiral Sung's eyes were cold. It would be a suicide mission. You'd be one small fleet against their entire horde. But if you could show the galaxy that humanity is back in the fight, I volunteer, Day said immediately. So do I, Yuri said, stepping forward. And me, Jinwoo added. Admiral Sung nodded. Good. I need 3 weeks to assemble your fleet and brief your crews. Dr. Nari, I want you to prepare a full report on human capabilities. Make it dramatic. Make it scary. Because when Captain Day strikes the Kryn, we're going to broadcast the battle to every coalition world. We're going to remind them what humans are. Yes, sir, Dr. Nari said. The meeting continued late into the night. Plans were made. Resources were allocated. Earth began to prepare for war. In the streets below the orbital command station, normal people went about their lives, not knowing that everything was about to change. In her laboratory, Dr. Nari worked through the night, reading ancient records and making notes. She found more and more evidence of what humanity had been. The myths were real. Humans had fought the galaxy and won. Then they had chosen peace. But peacetime was over. The Kryn horde was coming, and they were about to learn why the galaxy had feared humanity. They were about to learn that some myths are true, and some legends are warnings. In orbit above Earth, Captain Han Day looked at his ship and his crew. They were preparing for a mission that would probably kill them all. But they were smiling. They were ready because they were human, and humans don't run from a fight. The waiting was the hardest part. Captain Han Day stood on the bridge of the Frontier Dawn, watching his small fleet hold position in the darkness between stars. 23 ships. That was all Earth could spare. Against them would come 140 Kryn warships. The odds were suicide. Everyone knew it, but no one had backed out. Contact in 5 minutes, Commander Yuri reported. Her voice was steady, but Day could see the tension in her shoulders. The Kryn convoy is following their projected route exactly. They have no idea we're here. Good. Day activated the fleet-wide communication. All ships, this is Day, you know the plan. Hit hard, hit fast, and make them bleed. More importantly, remember that the entire galaxy is watching. Today we remind them what humans are. Today we show them that Earth doesn't run. Humanity fights. 23 acknowledgements came back. Some were calm. Some were excited. All were ready. Day looked at Jinwoo, who sat at the pilot controls with a wild grin on his face. Ready for some impossible flying? Born ready, Captain, Jinwoo replied. The 5 minutes passed like 5 hours. Then Yuri's console lit up. Contact! The Kryn convoy just entered the system. They're maintaining standard formation. Still no sign they've detected us. Hold position, Day ordered. Let them get deeper into the gravity well. On the tactical display, the Kryn fleet appeared as red dots. So many red dots. Their ships were larger than human vessels with heavier armor and stronger weapons. One-on-one, a Kryn warship would destroy a human ship easily. But humans didn't fight one-on-one. They're passing the marker, Yuri said. We have them boxed in. All ships, D commanded. Execute Operation Mythology now. 23 human ships dropped their stealth fields and opened fire. Missiles launched in clouds. Energy weapons lit up the darkness. The Kryn convoy, caught completely by surprise, took the first volley directly. 6 Kryn ships exploded immediately. A dozen more took heavy damage. The rest scattered, trying to form defensive positions. But the human fleet was already moving, not giving them time to organize. Jinwoo, get us in close, Day ordered. Boarding range. The young pilot's hands flew across his controls. The Frontier Dawn accelerated toward the enemy, weaving between weapons fire with impossible precision. Other human ships followed, each one targeting a different Kryn vessel. They're launching fighters, Yuri shouted. Hundreds of them. Launch ours, Day replied calmly. And deploy the drones. This was the key to the human strategy. Earth couldn't match Kryn technology, but Earth could build cheap disposable drones loaded with explosives. Thousands of them poured from the human ships, each one programmed to ram into enemy vessels or fighters. The Kryn pilots tried to shoot them down. They destroyed dozens, but for every drone they killed, 3 more got through. Explosions rippled across Kryn hulls. Their fighters, sleek and deadly, found themselves overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Boarding range achieved on Target 7, Yuri reported, launching assault pods. From the belly of the Frontier Dawn, 10 small pods shot out. They crossed the distance to a damaged Kryn warship in seconds, then punched through its hull. Inside each pod was Sergeant Mina Tay and her Marine squad. Mina felt the impact as her pod breached the Kryn ship. The doors blew open, and she led her Marines into the alien vessel. The corridor was dark and filled with smoke. Emergency lights flashed red. "Move fast," Mina ordered. "Target is the engine room. We blow their reactor and get out." Her Marines ran through the ship, their weapons ready. They knew the layout from intelligence reports, but nothing prepared them for their first sight of the Kryn. The aliens were massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and thick armor-like skin. They roared when they saw the humans and charged with weapons blazing. Mina's Marines opened fire. The Kryn were tough, but human bullets were designed to kill. The first alien went down, then the second. The third reached the humans and swung a massive clawed arm. Private Lee Kang dodged barely. He fired his weapon point-blank into the Kryn's chest. The alien staggered but didn't fall. It roared again and grabbed Lee, lifting him off the ground. Mina didn't hesitate. She ran forward and drove her combat knife into the Kryn's throat. Blue blood sprayed. The alien dropped Lee and fell. "Keep moving," Mina shouted. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. This was what humans did. They fought. They survived. Outside, the space battle raged. Jin Woo flew the Frontier Dawn like a dancer, dodging missiles and return fire. His fighter instincts were perfect, seeing patterns in the chaos that others missed. "Captain, I have an idea," Jin Woo said suddenly. "It's crazy. I like crazy," Day replied. "What is it?" "Their command ship. The big one in the center. Its weapons are all facing outward, protecting the convoy. If I could get behind it through their own formation..." Jin Woo's grin widened. "I could ram it. You'd die," Yuri said flatly. "Probably," Jin Woo agreed. "But that ship is coordinating their defense. Take it out and their formation falls apart." Day thought for exactly 3 seconds. "Do it, but take a fighter, not our ship." "And Jin Woo? Make it count." The young pilot was already moving toward the hangar. "I always do, Captain." 5 minutes later, Jin Woo launched in a small fighter. It was fast but fragile, armed with just 2 missiles and a machine gun. He pushed the engines to maximum and dove into the thickest part of the battle. Kryn fighters pursued him. His console screamed warnings. He ignored them all, weaving through weapons fire like it was a game. He fired his missiles at pursuing fighters, destroying 2. Then he was through, racing toward the massive Kryn command ship. "This is Jin Woo," he broadcasted to the fleet. "Tell my family I loved them. Tell Earth I died human." He aimed his fighter at the command ship's bridge. The Kryn tried to shoot him down, but he was too fast, too skilled, and too determined. At the last second, he activated his fighter's self-destruct. The explosion was small compared to the massive command ship, but it was precisely placed. The bridge blew apart, killing everyone inside. The command ship went dark. In that moment, the entire Kryn fleet hesitated. Their coordination broke. "They scattered! Now!" Day roared. "All ships full assault!" The human fleet struck with everything they had. Without their command ship, the Kryn couldn't organize a proper defense. Human ships swarmed them, using close-range weapons and boarding parties. It was brutal, ugly combat, the kind of fighting humans had evolved for. Deep inside the Kryn warship, Mina's squad reached the engine room. It was huge, filled with strange alien technology that glowed with purple light. "Plant the charges," Mina ordered. Her Marines spread out, placing explosives on key systems. "We have 3 minutes." "Let's move." They ran back through the ship, fighting more Kryn soldiers. Mina lost 2 Marines to enemy fire. Private Park was injured, but they kept moving, because that's what humans did. They fought past the point where other species would surrender. They reached their assault pod with 30 seconds to spare. The pod launched, blasting away from the Kryn ship. Behind them, the charges detonated. The reactor went critical. The entire warship exploded in a ball of white-hot plasma. "Target 7 destroyed," Yuri reported. Multiple enemy ships going dark. "They're breaking formation." "Keep the pressure on," Day commanded. He watched the tactical display. The Kryn had started with 140 ships. Now fewer than 60 remained operational, but the human fleet had lost 12 ships. Good people had died. Jin Woo had died, but they were winning. The battle lasted another hour. In the end, fewer than 40 Kryn ships escaped. The rest were destroyed or crippled beyond repair. The human fleet had lost 15 ships total, but they had achieved the impossible. They had defeated a force 6 times their size. Day activated the broadcast system. He knew that Earth had been transmitting this entire battle to every coalition world that would listen. "This is Captain Han Day of the United Earth Fleet," he said. His voice was tired but strong. "To the species of the Galactic Coalition, humanity has returned. We remember what you forgot. We are Death World born. We survived ice ages and plagues and extinctions. We are persistence hunters. We are apex predators, and we do not surrender." He paused, looking at the wreckage floating around his ship. "The Kryn horde thinks they can conquer the galaxy. They're wrong, because humanity stands between them and you. We didn't ask for this fight, but we've never backed down from a fight. Earth remembers, and we're coming home." Across the galaxy, billions of aliens watched the broadcast. They saw humans fight with a ferocity they had forgotten was possible. They saw small ships ramming larger ones. They saw boarding parties that fought past terrible wounds. They saw pilots sacrificing themselves for tactical advantage. They saw the myth become real. On Earth, Admiral Sung Kyo watched the battle end and smiled grimly. "Well done, Captain Day," he said quietly. "You reminded them. Now let's see if they'll remember." The Kryn horde had noticed humanity, and they were very, very angry. The Coalition Grand Chamber was massive. It could hold 10,000 beings, representatives from every major species in the known galaxy. Today, every seat was filled. They had come to debate a single question: what to do about humanity. Ambassador Suari stood in the center of the chamber, alone. She was small compared to many of the aliens around her, but she stood straight, her chin up, her voice clear. "I come before this coalition on behalf of the United Earth government," she said. Her words were translated into 100 languages simultaneously. "My species asks for an alliance. The Kryn horde threatens us all. We propose a partnership. Share your technology with us. Allow us to join your military efforts. Together we can stop this threat." The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens shouted in agreement. Others roared in anger. High Chancellor Vector, the leader of the coalition, raised one of his 6 arms for silence. "The coalition has seen your broadcast," Vector said. His voice was deep and powerful. "We watched your battle against the Kryn convoy. Your tactics were impressive but also disturbing." "Disturbing?" So repeated. "Your forces used suicide attacks. Your soldiers fought past mortal wounds. You showed no regard for your own lives." Vector's eyes were cold. "This is not how civilized species wage war." "With respect, High Chancellor, civilized species are losing this war," Sue replied. "The Kryn have conquered 50 systems while the coalition retreated. You abandoned billions of beings, including humanity, to save yourselves. We're offering you a chance to change that." "You're offering us violence," another alien said. This was Counselor Thess, a representative of the Veloth species. "I have studied the ancient records. I know what humanity is, what you were, and I remember why we quarantined your world." The chamber went quiet. Everyone turned to look at Counselor Thess. "Tell them," Vector said. Thess stood slowly. She was old even by Veloth standards. Her gray skin was marked with age patterns. 11,000 years ago, humanity developed faster than light travel. They burst into the galaxy like a storm. Within 50 years, they had colonized 30 systems. We welcomed them at first, but we quickly learned to fear them. She activated a holographic display. Ancient images appeared, showing battles from long ago. Humans fought differently than any species we had encountered. They didn't stop when losing. They didn't surrender when outnumbered. They used tactics we considered insane: suicide attacks, false retreats, poisoning entire planets to deny them to the enemy. And worst of all, they enjoyed it. "That's not true," Sue protested, "isn't it?" Thess challenged. "I watched your Captain Day's broadcast. I saw the smile on that pilot's face before he crashed into the Kryn command ship. That wasn't the face of someone doing a necessary duty. That was the face of someone who found joy in battle." The chamber erupted again. Some aliens agreed with Thess. Others defended humanity. But Sue noticed that most stayed silent, uncertain. "The war 11,000 years ago nearly destroyed the coalition," Thess continued. "Humanity fought us to a standstill. We couldn't defeat them. Their tactics were too unpredictable. Their soldiers too relentless. Finally, we negotiated a peace. Humanity agreed to return to Earth and stay there. We agreed to leave them alone. And for 11,000 years that peace held. Until now, Vector said. Until you came back. We didn't come back, Sue said firmly. You left us. The Kryn are coming for Earth whether we fight or not. We're simply choosing to fight, and we're offering to fight for you as well. At what cost? Asked another counselor. If we ally with humans, we're unleashing Deathworlders on the galaxy again. Who's to say you won't turn on us once the Kryn are defeated? Sue took a deep breath. Because we're not the same species we were 11,000 years ago. Yes, we evolved on a harsh world. Yes, we're good at fighting, but we're also capable of peace. We've had 11,000 years of peace on Earth. We've built a civilization based on cooperation and mutual respect. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We just want to survive, and we want others to survive too. Pretty words, Vector said, but words are not proof. Then let our actions be proof, Sue replied. Captain Day's fleet didn't have to attack the Kryn. They could have run, hidden, saved themselves. Instead, they fought to protect worlds they've never even visited. They fought for species that abandoned them. If that's not proof of our intentions, what is? The debate continued for hours. Some species supported humanity. They saw humans as necessary allies against the Kryn threat. Others feared humans more than they feared the Kryn. They argued for maintaining the quarantine, leaving Earth to its fate. Finally, Vector called for a vote. The chamber fell silent. All in favor of a full military alliance with humanity, signal now. Lights appeared throughout the chamber. Sue counted them. Not enough. Not nearly enough. All opposed. More lights. Many more. The motion fails, Vector announced. The coalition will not enter a formal alliance with humanity. However, we will offer limited support. Medical supplies. Raw materials. But no military aid. No technology transfer. No direct cooperation. Sue felt anger rise in her chest. So you want us to fight and die for you, but you won't help us do it? We want you to remember your place, Vector said coldly. Humanity chose isolation 11,000 years ago. You wanted to be left alone. Now you have your wish. The Kryn don't care about ancient agreements, Sue said. When they're done with Earth, they'll come for you next. Perhaps, Vector admitted. Or perhaps you'll stop them. Either way, the coalition has made its decision. Sue left the grand chamber with her head high, but inside she was furious. She returned to her diplomatic ship and immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Sung Kyo appeared on the screen. How did it go? They rejected the alliance, Sue reported. They'll send supplies but no real help. Sung, they're afraid of us. They think we're too dangerous. We are dangerous, the Admiral replied. That's the point. He leaned back in his chair. It doesn't matter. We knew this might happen. We'll fight without them. The Kryn are redirecting forces toward Earth, Sue said. Our intelligence says they're angry about the convoy attack. They're treating us as the primary threat now. Good, Sung said. Let them come. We'll show them what a death world can do. On Earth, preparations for war continued. Every shipyard worked around the clock. Weapons factories ran at maximum capacity. Soldiers trained in harsh environments preparing for the worst. The entire planet mobilized. Dr. Nari Yoon worked in her laboratory, studying everything she could find about the Kryn. Their tactics. Their technology. Their weaknesses. She shared her findings with military planners, helping them prepare for the coming invasion. Captain Han Day returned to Earth and was given a larger command. Now he led an entire battle group of 50 ships. He trained his crews relentlessly, teaching them the lessons learned from the convoy battle. Sergeant Mina Tay recovered from her wounds and immediately volunteered for another mission. She trained new Marine units in close-quarters combat, preparing them for the brutal reality of boarding actions. Intelligence Officer Hana Ren intercepted Kryn communications. What she learned was terrifying. The Kryn were gathering a massive fleet, 3,000 warships. They were calling it the Earth Elimination Force. They want to make an example of us, Hana reported to Admiral Sung. Show the galaxy what happens to species that resist. Let them try, Sung replied. Across the galaxy, other species watched and waited. Some admired humanity's courage. Others thought humans were fools. But everyone watched, because they knew this battle would determine the fate of the entire galaxy. If Earth fell, the Kryn would be unstoppable. If Earth somehow survived, It would prove that the Kryn could be beaten. Either way, the coming battle would be remembered for thousands of years. On the Kryn flagship, Warlord Kresh studied the data from the convoy battle. He watched the human tactics. He saw their suicide attacks and their relentless aggression, and he smiled. These humans think they're warriors, he said to his officers. They think their primitive weapons and crude tactics will save them.
They're wrong.
We'll crush their world and erase their species from existence. And the galaxy will remember that the Kryn horde shows no mercy. His officers roared their approval. The Kryn fleet began its journey toward Earth. 3,000 warships moving through space like a swarm of locusts. They would arrive in 60 days. Admiral Sung Kyo stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, looking down at Earth. The planet looked peaceful from here, beautiful. But he knew that peace was ending. They're coming, he said quietly to Dr. Nari, who stood beside him. Yes, she agreed. But so are we. We're going to show them what 11,000 years of peace made us forget. We're going to show them that humans don't just survive. We fight, we adapt, we overcome. Even against 3,000 ships? Dr. Nari smiled. Especially against 3,000 ships. Because that's when humans are at their best. When everything seems impossible. When the odds are suicide. That's when we remind the universe why they should have stayed afraid of us. The countdown to Earth's battle had begun. Day 1 of the siege began quietly. The Kryn fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like a dark cloud. 3,000 warships, each one massive and deadly. Against them stood 600 human vessels. Everything Earth could gather. Admiral Sung Kyo watched from the bridge of the Defiance, Earth's largest battleship. His face was calm, but inside he felt the weight of billions of lives depending on his decisions. They're moving into attack formation, Commander Yuri reported. She now served as Sung's tactical officer. Estimated time to weapons range, 3 hours. Activate the broadcast, Sung ordered. Full galaxy transmission. Dr. Nari's voice came through his earpiece. Broadcast is live, Admiral. Every coalition world is watching. Sung stood and faced the camera that would carry his words across space. This is Admiral Sung Kyo of the United Earth Fleet, speaking to the Galactic Coalition and to all free beings in the galaxy. The Kryn horde has come to destroy my world. They believe we're weak. They believe we'll surrender. They're wrong. He paused, letting his words sink in. Earth is a death world. We evolved fighting for survival every single day. We survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and disasters that would have ended other species. We learned to fight when there's no hope. We learned to never give up. Today we show the galaxy what that means. He looked directly into the camera. To the Kryn, you wanted to make an example of us. Instead, we'll make an example of you. To the Coalition, watch closely. This is what you forgot. This is what you should have remembered. He signaled and the camera cut off. Now it was time for war. Captain Han Day commanded the forward battle group. His 50 ships positioned themselves between Earth and the approaching Kryn fleet. He knew this was suicide. His group would take the first impact and probably wouldn't survive it. All ships, he broadcasted to his group. Remember the convoy battle. Remember Jin Woo. We fight for Earth, we fight for humanity. Make every shot count. The Kryn fleet opened fire first. Thousands of energy beams and missiles crossed the distance. Space lit up with explosions. Day's defensive fleet launched their own weapons and the battle began. The first hour was hell. Day's ships scattered, using their speed and maneuverability to dodge the worst of the Kryn fire. They launched drones by the thousands, each one carrying explosives. The drones swarmed the Kryn ships like angry bees. Take evasive action, Day shouted as a massive energy beam nearly cut his ship in half. His pilot, a woman named A-Ri, threw the ship into a wild spin. The beam missed by meters. Launching boarding pods, Yuri reported. Targets acquired. Across the battlefield, dozens of assault pods launched. Sergeant Mina Tay was in the lead pod, heading for a Kryn battleship. Her Marines were silent, each one knowing they might not come back. The pod punched through the Kryn hull. The doors blew open and Mina led the charge. The Kryn were ready this time. The corridors were filled with soldiers. Push forward. Mina screamed. Her weapon blazed. Her Marines fought like demons. They took casualties, but they didn't stop. They couldn't stop. Stopping meant death, and humans didn't accept death easily. They fought through 3 decks, leaving Kryn bodies behind. They reached the reactor control room and planted their charges. But as they retreated, Kryn reinforcements cut them off. We're trapped, Private Li Kang said, his voice tight with fear. No, we're not, Mina replied. She pointed to a damaged section of hull. We blow our way out. That's insane, another Marine protested. So is fighting 3,000 warships, Mina said with a grim smile. We're human. Insane is what we do. They used their last explosive charge to blow a hole in the hull. The vacuum of space tried to suck them out, but their combat suits protected them. They jumped into space just as the reactor exploded behind them. The battleship broke apart and Mina's squad drifted in the wreckage until a rescue shuttle found them. Squad 4 recovered, the shuttle pilot reported. Sergeant Tay is alive. Back in the main battle, Day's fleet was taking terrible losses. 30 of his 50 ships were destroyed or crippled, but they had taken down over 200 Kryn vessels. The odds were still impossible, but humans were making the Kryn bleed for every meter of space. Fall back to the second defensive line, Admiral Sung ordered. Day, you've done enough. Pull your remaining ships back. Understood, Day replied. His ship was damaged, leaking air, and half his crew was injured. But they were still fighting. The battle continued for 19 days. The Kryn pushed forward relentlessly. The human fleet gave ground slowly, making the Kryn pay for every advance. Orbital defense stations fired until their weapons melted. Space stations were converted into massive bombs and rammed into Kryn capital ships. On day 7, the Kryn breached the outer orbital defenses. Their landing forces began descending toward Earth's surface. Admiral Sung had prepared for this. Activate ground defenses, he ordered. Show them what it's like to fight on a death world. The Kryn thought they knew how to conquer planets. They had done it 47 times before, but they had never tried to conquer Earth. Their landing ships entered the atmosphere and were immediately hit by thousands of surface-to-air missiles. Dozens of ships crashed. The ones that made it through landed in what looked like empty deserts and grasslands. Then the ground exploded. Humans had buried mines, traps, and hidden weapon systems across every major landing zone. The Kryn soldiers who survived the initial landing found themselves in a nightmare. The terrain itself seemed to fight them. Human soldiers appeared from hidden bunkers and tunnels. They used the landscape like it was a weapon. They knew every hill, every valley, every hiding spot. The Kryn were strong and well-armed, but they were fighting on humanity's home ground. In the deserts of Africa, a Kryn battalion landed and immediately got caught in a sandstorm. Human forces attacked from within the storm, using their knowledge of the terrain to strike and disappear. The Kryn couldn't see their enemies. They fired blindly, wasting ammunition, while humans picked them off one by one. In the frozen north, Kryn soldiers found themselves fighting in conditions their species had never experienced. The cold slowed their movements. Ice made their footing treacherous. Human soldiers, wearing thermal suits and using skis, moved across the frozen landscape like ghosts. But the hardest fighting was in the cities. The Kryn attacked major urban centers, thinking they would find easy victories. Instead, they found fortresses. Every building was a potential ambush point. Every street had been turned into a kill zone. And the civilians fought too. Earth's people weren't helpless. They had been preparing for 60 days. Old people threw Molotov cocktails from windows. Teenagers operated drone controllers, sending explosive robots into Kryn formations. Parents fought alongside soldiers to protect their children. The Kryn had superior technology. They had better weapons and armor. But humans had something the Kryn didn't understand. They were fighting for their home. Every human on Earth knew that surrender meant extinction. So they didn't surrender. They fought with everything they had. On day 12, the Kryn warlord Kresh watched the battle reports and felt something he had rarely experienced. Doubt. His forces had conquered half a galaxy, but Earth was different. The humans wouldn't break. They fought past wounds that should have killed them. They used tactics that seemed suicidal but somehow worked. They turned their entire planet into a weapon. Increase the orbital bombardment, he ordered. Destroy their cities from space. If we can't conquer them, we'll exterminate them. The Kryn fleet began bombarding Earth's major cities. Millions of humans died in minutes, but this only made the survivors fight harder. There was no thought of surrender now. Only survival. Only vengeance. Admiral Sung watched his world burn and felt rage like he had never known. All remaining ships, he ordered. Final assault. Ram them if you have to. We're taking that flagship down. Every human ship still capable of flying turned toward the Kryn fleet. They didn't hold anything back. Pilots flew damaged ships on suicide runs. Crews fired weapons until their reactors overloaded. It was desperate and brutal and completely human. Captain Day's ship, barely holding together, led the final charge. "This is for Jin Woo," he said quietly. "This is for everyone we've lost. This is for Earth." He aimed his ship at the Kryn flagship where Warlord Kresh commanded the invasion. His crew had already evacuated in escape pods. He was alone on the bridge, flying the ship manually. Yuri's voice came through his communicator. "Sir, you don't have to do this. We can find another way." "There is no other way," Day replied. "Tell Earth that I died well. Tell them I died human." His ship accelerated to maximum speed. Kryn defensive fire tore through the hull, but the ship kept going. Day thought of Earth, beautiful and blue, his home. He thought of all the people depending on him. And he smiled. The Frontier Dawn hit the Kryn flagship's reactor at full speed. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a new star burning in the sky. The Kryn flagship broke apart. Warlord Kresh died instantly. Without their leader, the Kryn fleet's coordination collapsed. They had lost over 2,000 ships. Their soldiers on Earth were cut off and surrounded. And suddenly, for the first time in their conquests, the Kryn felt fear. They had come to destroy a primitive species. Instead, they had met Deathworlders who fought like demons.